I have a million questions, but this isn't really about me, it's about you, so I'm gonna see, does anybody have a question that they're already dying to ask? Yes.
What could, was it Alexander? Alex?
Daniel, but
Daniel.
Alex first too.
What country were you thinking about going to?
Good question. So
You're not
one
local.
component is my interests, where do I want to live? And then the other would be, where does Right Scale need me? And where does Right Scale need me is comprised of what's the team doing there and what are our plans for that team? How's the industry evolving around it? And what does the market look like? And how do we forecast it growing? And how quickly do we forecast it growing? And how large do we forecast it growing? So at this point, London is the best option because we're looking to hire several people over there, and 20% of our business comes from the EU.
Cool. Anybody else?
What does a Red Scale do?
Yeah, great question. So RightScale is a multi-cloud management platform that's used to automate provisioning, configuration, and management of virtual data centers. I knew nothing. I didn't know anything about it, right? Like when I joined, I didn't even know what a server was when I was applying for the job at RightScale. And so the reason why I said it like that is that it almost doesn't really matter, which lends to Janie's point, is that there's on-the-job training. So if you can present yourself as someone that is a good fit for the job and that people want to work with, you can learn once you get there. And one of the good things to present yourself as is an eager, motivated, and fast learner, which I believe everyone can be.
I think that's a great point, and that's something I noticed when, for sure when Janie and Daniel were presenting, and probably is also true for you, Diana, is that they talked about the cultures of the company, or that the company said, you're a perfect fit, they really identified you. They said, you're the kind of person we need in our company. And I think, Daniel, you also talked about, talking to people and saying, yeah, I really get along with these guys. And exactly what you're saying, that technology stuff, that can be taught, but fitting it into a company and having that kind of can-do personality, that's something that you have to kind of come with. So that was a theme I noticed. The other thing I noticed is that going to parties seems to be a great way for you people to get jobs, and I really support that. I like that. And let me just get through my list, and then we'll get to you guys, okay?
You've already got a job, Kristen.
I know. The other thing I noticed, though, I just want to say is that that you weren't focused on the pay, and that kind of came out, and that's something I've noticed with other people who have come to this series and spoken this series, is a lot of times students come to us and they say, well, I want to make a job, I want to make a lot of money. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to make a lot of money, but I think that it sometimes is putting the cart before the horse. And I think that you all have kind of focused on, hey, what am I really good at? And usually when you're doing what you're really good at, the pay is something that, you have to be mindful of it, but it's something that will come. And I really appreciate that, because I think it's an important piece.
It also doesn't really matter if you hate what you do or don't enjoy it.
It doesn't matter how much you make.
And if you don't enjoy it and you keep doing it, you're going to start hating it more each day or each week or each month.
Well, because your body and mind are going to start falling apart, and then you can't afford anything because you're just taking care of your health or something, So yeah. So I said I always have fun, because otherwise it doesn't.
There's nothing really as good as loving your job.
Yeah.
That's
I didn't
so
even
true.
realize I loved this job until I had this job, and then all of a sudden it occurred to me, this is totally different from all those other jobs I knew I liked. And it just is a totally different experience.
Yeah, and you smile when you're talking about it. It's really cool. Do you have a question back there?
No, maybe. What tips you got for me if I want to start a company? Like, what tips would you guys give me at the beginning if I started a technical company?
Oh, mine would be network.
If you have one tip to give me.
What network?
Network.
Yeah, any way you can. Any way you can, network.
It's a great question. So the team is very important when you're starting, and having personalities that work well together but are complementary. I think they said George Washington surrounded himself with people with different views. So complementary skill sets is good. Industry knowledge is pretty important. I'd also say networking in terms of not only meeting the right people, but also finding funding. And a lot of times the best way to get funding and to create new products is most people think, okay, I need to design, build, and then sell. And what most experts say these days is actually you've got to sell and then design and then build. And the idea is you don't sell some product that you don't have, but you start talking to people, you gauge their interests, you see, do they really want this? Is there really a market for it? And how can I make adjustments to increase the market for it or to differentiate? And then once you've got something that people really want, almost like a virtual queue of customers, then you can go out, you can really attract good people, you can get funding, and then move on to the next stages, and also ensure that you're building something that will eventually sell, and it's not just going to be sitting there with people like Janie and I calling and getting hung up on her. That actually doesn't ever really happen, by the way. But
Yeah, people always return phone calls, no matter what you've heard or seen in sitcoms.
Yeah.
Did you have a question
Yeah,
here?
I'm actually, my question is, like I've always, I'm a film production major and I've been like doing like, I consider myself like a filmmaker.
Mhm.
But anyways, I've always been interested in marketing, but I want to be more like a specialist in marketing, like in demographics, as in like Latino. Like,
Okay.
So like, what do you recommend? Like, I speak Spanish, like first generation, like, and
Yeah.
I do film, and but I want to apply that into marketing, or what's the best?
The couple of things. The most creative agencies, our agency here is media buying and planning. So we don't actually create any commercials. We don't have any commercial production. That is all basically in Marina Del Rey, Santa Monica area. I would say like most of the commercials in the U.S. are probably filmed right there. So working at a large agency would need that knowledge. Like anyone with a Hispanic targeted clients. Also, working for Univision is, I mean, they're completely dominant. Most of the programming comes out of like Brazil, but there are some local shows in basically the two hubs are Los Angeles and Miami. So if you're doing video production, you probably want to be in either of those places. And yeah.
You
Good
can use
question.
your background too, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're a filmmaker, you've got to be able to market your films.
Yeah,
right? So
definitely,
really get
like-
out there. Vice versa, you could work for a film company as someone in marketing with your film background
Yeah,
and
like
knowledge.
all-
So it's taking interest, taking background.
Yeah, because I always wanted like more of the niche of just how can I make myself more dynamic, and just like deciding like if I should just continue like get my BA like in film production, like in that, or should I just get my BA like in marketing?
Mhm.
Since like I get my BA in marketing and my background in filmmaking will like complement it, or something of that motion, you know?
Yeah, it would have to be someone that actually worked with film, because for the most part, it seems like it's more graphic design for most like client. If you're actually going to work for, there's so many different like companies, obviously corporate. Like for example, Panda Express has their own team of graphic designers that do a lot of their art, and then they work with the creative agency that makes the spot. If you're doing the film thing is a little bit more specific, obviously. And the thing that about marketing is that every marketing department, you have product development, like menu, or I mostly deal with restaurant clients. But it's not, I thought of marketing mostly as the advertising, like the outside, but there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes, behind creating the food, creating the look, creating the menu, getting the word out. Just marketing can mean a lot of different things.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
And we can help you out here in the Career Center if you wanted to explore some of the different majors and what that might prepare you best for. So feel free to come by or make an appointment with us. That's what we're here for. Yes?
So, seeing as you two have degrees and you don't, do you think that having a degree to be in sales is really important, or do you think that you can get into sales without a degree?
You know, as I mentioned, I put 4 kids through college, and you know, my experience is none of them walked out to a great job. Because everybody everybody's getting degrees now. Everybody's going to college, and so I think to be competitive, a college degree is probably not a really bad choice. On the other hand, go to a party, find out what happens.
Exactly.
In terms of how good of a salesperson you are,
Yeah.
I don't think it matters at all.
No.
You can see Janie's incredible. So it's not as much about that. In terms of getting your foot in the door, in terms of networking, in terms of exploring your own interests and passions, in terms of expanding the way you look at the world and analyze situations and make decisions, I'd say it's probably a good starting point, especially because most jobs require four-year degrees.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of the people that like some of the best salesmen that have started some of the most successful companies in Santa Barbara didn't have any sort of degrees. Sometimes to get to that point, the degree helps.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
It's fun.
I did not pay them to say this. Yes.
Working outside sales or at a startup, how do you stay motivated and keep your team motivated every day to keep the company growing? And like, what personal development strategies do you use or do you apply towards your team?
Well, I don't have a team.
I'm
work
on a
with
team.
people, but, yeah.
I could try to take this one. So I'm not a manager, but I have been able to help hire a number of people and help structure a department in terms of multiple teams. I would say first off that in a startup, if the person's not motivated to be there naturally, they shouldn't be there. And so advice to you guys is when you're applying for jobs, seem very, very motivated, do your homework, go in prepared, and don't fake it, because if you're not, then chances of you getting there and then actually really being motivated are slim, and it's just sort of a waste of your time and the company's time. In terms of things we do, so there's a lot of communication and what we call sort of horizontal structure, so that the things everyone's doing really matters. So autonomy is a big part of motivating people. People want to have responsibility, they want to own something, contribute. Mastery is another one, so getting better at what you're doing a really good job. Those are two things that are both quite important. In terms of actual things that I would do if I was in a manager position is, sort of a long leash and give people a lot of flexibility and freedom, and to let them know basically I'm trying to make you I'm trying to help you work, or trying to set things up so you can work in the most productive and enjoyable way possible. And I think that not only helps people thrive, but it makes them want to be there. It's better loyalty and better for everyone.
And I think it's really important. You were kind of touching on this. You have to show up as yourself. At one point, when I first heard about outside sales, I was terrorized. I literally could not sleep when I found out what it was. First I said yay, and then I found out what it was, and I was terrorized by it. I have to go up to total strangers. When they come to me, I'm good, but now I have to go seek them out. I was terrorized, and a woman said, I took a class, so take classes. I took a class, and she just said, who do you know, she was telling all of us, who do you know that just seems to walk into a room and own it? They just own the room. They're comfortable with, they can talk with everybody. Well, it was her in my mind, and so she just said, whoever that is, just when you were walking into a networking, or a B2B, or a business after hours, or whatever, kind of embody that person and go in as them. So just kind of go in. Who do you know that just can go in to a total, not knowing a single person in the room, be them, embody them. I tease her that I've embodied her for 40 years now. But I always did her as me, because I didn't know how to do her as, I couldn't do her totally. So you have to bring yourself to the game, because no matter what kind of a sales team you have, what kind of a manager you have, you're the one who really motivates yourself, and you're the one who has fun at your job, and you're the one who talks to those clients, and they get who you are. And it's back to that, they buy you first. So it really comes down to, if you go in a job and you can't kind of get over the fear of, oh my God, talking to total strangers, or you can't, then maybe that's not your job. Maybe your job is doing the things that help that person get out there every day. But, and then you can learn how to do the job, you know, on the job training. But you really have to own who you are and joyfully, gratefully own who you are. Know what you'd like to change and make those changes by classes or whatever. But you just have to I don't do sales like some people do sales. I mean, I know people who do sales, and I go, I don't know how they ever make any money. They're so whatever by my standard. And people look at me and go, how do you ever make any money? You're so like laid back and what, you know, the things that they think of me. But, you know, we're all attracted to the kind of energies that, so everybody gets to do it but their way, by the rules of whoever they're working for.
Yes.
Leading by example is also really important.
Yeah.
So when you lead by example, people not only have a lot more respect for you, but there's more credibility with what you say and what they do, so people learn a lot more and a lot more motivated. So, and that's whether you're a manager, person at the bottom, or somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, one thing I was gonna say about that is somebody told me to, like, kind of dress and act the part that you want to have, not the job that you have currently. So I started off as the receptionist at the TV station, and I always kind of dressed up, and obviously I was already having a degree and everything like that, so I was an easy shoo-in for the next promotion. That's exactly what happened. And my manager would say things to me like, you always look so nice, or you always, you know, just even like dressing, and that Fox was very corporate, so it's like power suits all the time. But doing that really made an impact on his perception of me, and that I fit that job. But he didn't even have to think like, maybe she's not quite ready, or, you know, anything like that. And even right now, we don't have to dress up at all. I wear sweats to work sometimes. And, but if I'm gonna negotiate, cause even though it's all on the phone, I will dress up just for that day because I feel better about it. And they can, it's like what you're saying, they can hear it in your voice. If you feel more powerful, if you feel like you, sometimes it's kind of immature, but I'll be like, I win. My strategy today is I win, and when I talk to you, you will realize that why I win.
Yeah.
But you have to kind of, obviously you're working together, but that confidence is really kind of infectious.
And that's a cool thing that you did too, Diana, is you took a receptionist job at a company that you were interested in working for.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times you're out of college, you kind of want that great job.
Yeah, it was not what I expected to do.
Yeah, but it's really a great way to just get in with a company and kind of see what the culture is. It's
Mhm.
like, hey, what do you really need to do to work here? So, yeah, we have a couple questions over here. One there.
If you were to do it again, Diana, how would you change the way you got into that company? Would you do it the same way, or how would you improve on it?
That's kind of what, with the comment that you don't know how the stars are going to align. I don't feel like I could have ever gotten in that company. At the time, there was so little turnover, I just didn't see how anyone ever got hired. Everyone in Chico, there's so few, well, good paying jobs at all that anything stable that had a full benefits package, nobody was leaving. And so I just really, I wouldn't change anything about it. I mean, I really enjoyed working for the temp company. It gave me a lot of experience that I would have never had otherwise. Even kind of like when you jump into a job, I feel like the first year of any job, you have no idea what you're doing. And if you're doing a temp job, you only have 2 months, or, you know, it's all temporary assignments. So it really forces you to just be quick and flexible, and also like you have to be like pleasant to work with, and because it's not like you know what you're doing. It's a frustrating experience, basically. So anyway, I don't know how anyone gets into media. It's so small, but if you can, then that will take you a long way, because it's experience that so few people have.
I think temp agencies can be really great ways to try a bunch of different jobs. I've definitely done my share with temp agencies when I was between jobs. And it was actually what got me kind of interested in this field of employment services. I was working in an HR department for a temp company after I moved back from India, and I thought, oh yeah, this is cool, you know, working with people getting jobs, and so then I found this job. Did you have a question?
Yeah. Would you say the best way to look for jobs is networking then? It's just getting your name out and talking to people, and you can meet people and find out about jobs in really mysterious ways?
For me, I would say yes, because that's who I am. And I am not as computer friendly as some in this room might be. So, LinkedIn is like a mystery land.
I would say yes, and because what I do is help people find jobs. And let me just tell you, the answer to that question is yes. Because we're in a tight market. The jobs in the newspaper there aren't even jobs in the newspaper. The jobs online are fake or they fill immediately. So the real way that people get jobs is meeting people and talking to people.
Mhm.
You got yours having sake bombs at Kyoto. You got yours being at a temp agency and basically networking at the places that you went to. You got yours going to a party too. You also have to do all the kind of traditional diligence stuff, in terms of knowing the companies and whatnot. But I think that networking is what's gonna set you apart and actually get you the job.
My assistant that my boss just stole from me because she's so awesome. She interviewed me for a class at UCSB. It was a communications class on interviewing, and she called a bunch of agencies in town, and we were the only ones that actually answered the phone. So she came and interviewed me, and I told my boss that she's so awesome. Can we hire her? I would like her to work for me. And so then she was so great that. So now her friend is my new assistant since my boss stole her. But so she just got the connection route in. But she literally just picked up the phone, called a random company, and interviewed someone at the company, looking.
So
I want to learn more about this
she was doing
career.
an informational interview. Like, she didn't
Yeah.
think you guys had a job.
No,
She just wanted to
and-
find out.
yeah.
That's great.
We were not hiring. She just came in and was so bubbly, and so she seemed perfect, and she really is. So.
That's awesome.
I would say that it's definitely one of the best ways to get a job. In terms of finding jobs, there's so much that's out there. So just exposing yourself to that, whether it's talking to people, whether it's searching out your interests online and seeing what companies are behind those, whether it's taking courses that have some sort of industry collaboration and trying to get connected that way. I'd say just really put yourself out there. Don't try to think a limited view in terms of the different possibilities, because a lot of times getting from A to B, you're not going to take the path that you think you will.
Yeah.
And then once you find jobs you like, then try to use networking, and unless unless it's again someone you just met, and then it's great.
But networking is also sort of those things you're talking about, Daniel. I mean,
Yeah,
networking is
exactly.
also these classes and, doing the research and making a cold call and maybe doing a informational interview. I mean, networking isn't just, meeting people at parties and chatting people up at business-to-business mixers. It's really a web of activities, which are some of which you just said.
I have a woman friend who's just moved here from Indiana. She's been here for about a year, and she has a lot of interest but didn't know anybody. So she, online, and there are meetup groups, and you probably know more about these than I do, but there are meetup groups, and it's like she loves to sail. There's a meetup group for, come and, this person she met has a boat, and he's by himself. He can't sail this boat by himself. So he goes to these meetup groups and picks up 6 or 7 people that want to come out sailing with them. And she did a hiking meetup group. And out of that, she's a financial advisor. And she's gotten so many clients out of this, just because she wants to go sailing and she wants to go hiking and she wants to learn Italian. And so, and that's all networking. That's all networking.
You should
so.
put her in touch with me if she wants to learn Italian.
Oh,
So you know.
oh, duh. Or you come to a
Networking.
class thinking you're going to be of service to them, and you get,
Anybody else with a question? I think we're going to end here because it's gotten a bit quiet, and if you have individual questions for our speakers, I'm sure they could stay a couple minutes and answer them. I really appreciate you for coming, and I really appreciate you for coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you.